Morning, Kal Kadosh. We're going to be continuing on Daf Ein Chet Amud Aleph 78A1. So if you remember, we were talking about, I'm going to show you with the pictures, we were speaking about the entire concept of, hold on one second. We were speaking about the entire concept that we mentioned. Here it is. Of a ziz, which is basically like this. This is the ziz ayotze min hakotel. You have here like a shelf, which is sticking out of the wall. It's 4x4 tfachim, 4x4 tfachim, v'niach alav sulam kol shehu. And you put a sulam. So here you put a ladder. So miato, right? It actually helps in the way that it's actually going to help that it's considered minimizing the 10 tfachim. And therefore, from here to the bottom, it's less than 10 tfachim. And from here to the top, it's less than 10 tfachim. It's going to be ma'et, and therefore you're allowed to come and you're allowed to use it. There's no problem whatsoever. Velo amram, but that's only if you put it by the ziz. However, if you put the ladder beside it, which is this picture over here, okay? What you just did was you were just making the ziz into a longer part, but because you put it beside it, but you didn't actually do anything. And therefore it's not going to be ma'et since it's distance 3 tfachim from the ground, okay? The Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravua, says Rav Nachman in the name of Rabba Baravua, Kotel Tisha Asar, Tzarich Ziz Echad Latiro. What happens now if you have a kotel, which is dividing 2 chatzirot, which is 19 tfachim, okay? So it says over here, let's see, it's over here, 19 tfachim. Look, this is a kotel which is in between 2 walls, which is 19 tfachim. Okay, so it says the Gemara, when you have a kotel which is 19 tfachim in between the 2 different, 19 tfachim is much more. Think about it, if 10 tfachim is 80 centimeters, so 19, we're almost talking about 100 was 1.6, right? We're talking about like mamash, right? Almost 2 meters here. Okay, so look at this. Here you have 19 tvachim. That's like 3 amot. Okay, a little bit more than 3 amot. Okay, so here you have a wall in between, which is 19 tvachim. So you need 1 ziz in order to permit it. Okay, and this is this one. Yeah, you see the picture? 19 tvachim of a wall. You need 1 ziz in order to permit it. This is 9.5 and 9.5. Because now by putting the ziz here in the middle, you broke up that you don't have 10 tfachim from the bottom to the top, and you don't have 10 tfachim from the middle to the top. So therefore, you just came and you separated them. Okay? Next, kotel esrim. What happens if you have this esrim tfachim? That's this picture, right? Picture number 731. Yeah? That's this picture right here. So if you have 20 tfachim, which is this one right here, this picture here. So if you have 20 tvachim, tzarich shne zizim latiro. You need 2 of them to permit it. So this is 1, and this is 2. Everyone sees the 2 different zizim? One more time. This is a ziz. This is like a, I don't know if you want to call it a shelf, but it's something which is protruding from the wall. This is another one over here. Each one of them, remember, has to be minimum by 4x4, 32 centimeters square. Okay, this picture 731. Okay, so if it's 20, you need 2, because you need 1 to make it less than 10 tfachim from the ground, and 1 to make it less than 10 tfachim from that one, and less than tfachim then to the top. Okay? Amar Rav Chasta, says Rav Chasta, but they can't be one on top of the other. It has to be one beside each other, and that's this picture here. You have 1 here and 1 here, but it cannot be 1 and then 1 on top. Okay? So let's see what this is. This is the Rashba. Okay, this is again the Rashba. Fine, next. Amar Rav Huna, says Rav Huna, Amud birshut rabim gavoa asara v'rachav arba'a. If you have an amud, a pillar, in the middle of Reshut Rabim, which is 10 tfachim tall, that's this picture here, 734, and rochav arba'a, it's 4 by 4 tfachim, 32 centimeters square. V'natzbo yated kol shehu, and you put inside of it like a peg, right? Doesn't matter how big, right? What happens? Miato, you now put it on top of it. You are mevatel mimenu the din of Reshut Yachid, and now becomes a mekom ptur. Okay? Amar Ravad Barava says that Ravad Barava uvegavua shlosha. We're talking about that the yated, the peg has to be 3 tfachim, right? Tall. Okay, so here it's less than 3 tfachim. This is 3 tfachim. You see in the same picture. One of them is less than 3 tfachim. The other one is 3 tfachim. Okay, but remember, the pillar has to be 4 by 4 tfachim width, right? Length and width, and 10 tfachim height. Okay? So Abaye v'Rava Abaye v'Rava will say Af al pi she'en gavua shlosha, even though it's not going to be gavua 3 tfachim. My tama, what's the reasoning? Right? Lo mishtamesh la. It said over here, but you're not actually using the top, right? Because basically, since at the top you can't use it because it doesn't have 4 by 4 tfachim, which you could actually use, right? So that's why it's going to be that halacha, because since you put the peg, now you can't use it anymore. So Ravashi says, afilu gavua shlosha. Even if it is going to be 3 tfachim, my tama, what's the reasoning? Because you could hang something on the peg. And you could come over here on this peg and you could hang, whether it's a hat, a jacket, or whatever it is. And since you could hang something there, you could still use it. Okay? So Ravashi, he says, the son of Rava to Ravashi, mil'o kulo be'etedot ma'u. What happens if you fill the entire thing with pegs? See here, you hung up like a bag on it. That's this picture, 735. You hung something up on it. Now the next picture is the one that we want now, 736. You filled up the entire thing of pegs. What's acha? Yeah, do we say that you want to actually use it? Or do you say that you can't use it anymore, so therefore you annulled it from being the amud in the Reshut Yachid? So Amalei, he says, Lo shmiya lachadam Rabbi Yochanan. You didn't hear Rabbi Yochanan. Bor v'chulyata mitzaref la'asara. A bor that you have in the pit, right? A pit. V'chulyata. And what happened was you made around it a sfata bor, which is like here it is, look. Bor v'chulyata, that's 737. Here's the pit. The pit is 7 tvachim. But around it, you made bechulyata, which is the sand and everything around it, but it goes above. So from the top of the sand until the bottom, and I don't know what you would call it, sand or dirt, whatever you want to call it. But from the top until the bottom, it's 10 tvachim. From here to here, it's only 7. Remember, a pit usually has to be 10 tvachim in order to be considered a different domain. This is a public domain here. Okay? So it says mitzaref la'asara. So you see from here, the same halacha. The rochav hachalal is going to complete it. So therefore, it completes. V'amayna, why? You're not using this as a pit. This is just the dirt which is above the pit. You're not using the pit. But what are you going to tell them? Right, that you were able to put something in order to use it. Hachanami, so too here. You're putting something, and you could use it. Meaning the fact that you could use this space, so that's why it's going to be okay. The same thing, you could use the space on top of the pit. Okay? Amar Rav Yehuda Mashmuel, says Rav Yehuda Mashmuel. Yeah, kotel asara tzarich sulam arba'a asar latiro. When you have a kotel, these are just different pictures over here. That's this thing. You could also use something. Fine. Okay, next. Here it is. Amar Yehuda Mashmuel, kotel asara tzarich. This is picture 742. We skipped a few because of Totzavot. Right? It says Rav Yehuda Mashmuel, kotel asara. When you have 10 tfachim, tzarich arba'a asar. You need an asulam, which is 14 tvachim, to permit it. So you see here, you're putting the sulam, you need 14 tvachim because you're putting it obviously diagonal in order to climb up on it. So therefore he says, if you have a 10 tvachim wall, you need 14 tvachim of a sulam, of a ladder, in order to permit it. Okay? Rav Yosef Amar Rav Yosef says, no, even 13. Afilu shlosh mashu, in a little bit. So you don't need a full 14, 13 a little bit. Abaye Amar, Abaye says, yeah, afilu achadasar mashu, even 11 in a little bit. Okay, there's machlokot again, tosfot. There's again tosfot. Meaning all these different pictures that we keep on saying the same thing. It's different pictures a little bit. It's tosfot. So this is even 13 in a little bit. And this is even 11 a little bit, 746, even a little, 11 a little bit. Okay, because you don't need it all the way to the top. As long as it's going to be over here and you have less than 3 tefachim, it's going to be okay. Okay? Rav Huna בר יהושע אמר אפילו 7 או משהו, even if you can have a 7 a little bit. Again, this is Rashi. This is now the next one. This is 748. Even 7 a little bit, because it's less than 3 tefachim. So since you have 10 tefachim, if it's going to be less than 3 tefachim from the top of the wall, right, then here you have 7 tefachim. Okay? So Shiva Mashu. So Amar Rav says, Sulam zakuf memaet. Yeah, Gemara velo yadana maitama. Even if you're going to have a Sulam zakuf, which is completely straight up, it's going to be memaet. But this is a Kabbalah. This is like we received it. It's a Gemara. We received it, but I don't know the reasoning why. So Amar Shmuel velo yada batama daminta. Why you don't know the reason? It's like an itztaba on top of an itztaba. Remember, the itztaba is this. No, there's not an itztaba. An itztaba was like a little tiny brick, a little tiny thing on the bottom. You remember we had a few pictures of it. It's like a box, and then you had a box on top of another box. So the same thing. So Amar B'chia says Rabbi B'chia dekalim, right? Shebebavel en ansechim keva. Yeah, that's this one. What are dekalim? There's machloket here. What is exactly this? Dekalim, it's like pisak, piske gizeh dekalim. This is like the bottom part of the palm trees. Yeah, in Bavel. You could say also Miami. Miami is full of palm trees, yeah? So here, this, it says over here, enam tzechim keva. You don't need to make them kavua. And still you're allowed to be metaltel otam shabbat. My time out's reasoning. Kevedan kovatam, because the heaviness comes and makes it kavua. So it comes out that this is here, it says, as long as it's going to be 4 by 4 tefachim, it's going to minimize that here, if you have less than 10 tefachim, it's going to be okay. Okay, so the kalim shebavel and tzechim keva. Metan kevedan kovatam. Rav Yosef Amar Rav Yoshia says, Rav Yosef named Rav Yoshia. He comes and he says, Sulamot shebebavel and tzechim keva. These sulamot of Bavel do not need keva. Maitama, the same thing, because they're so heavy, they make them heavy duty. So it's so heavy, so it's going to make it kavua. Mandamar sulamot, according to the Mandamar that says sulamot kol shekem dekalim. So the more so dekalim. But according to Mandamar dekalim, no, the sulamot are less heavier than the palm trees in the base of the palm tree, and therefore we don't say that. Okay? Ba miner Rav Yosef ben Abba. So Rav Yosef comes and he asks Rav Abba, what's going to happen if you have sulam mikan and sulam mikan? V'kashin ben tzan, and you have kash in the middle. That's picture 752. So you have one ladder here, and in between you have kash, you have pacha, you have straw. Okay? V'kashin ben tzan. Now what happens is that each one do not have, there's going to be 4 tefachim in between. Okay. The whole width. The whole thing, the width is 4 tefachim. Okay. Now it says over here, but each one does not have 2 tefachim. Shem bekol echad mehem rochav 2 tefachim. V'kashin be'emtza. Ma what's halacha? Do we say that it's a 4 tefachim and it helps or not? But at the end of the day, the sach kol, which means that in both of them, the quantity in together is 4 tefachim. Or do you say no, but the middle part does not really count? So amar lehu en kaf haregel ole behem. Mesulamot im hakashim, since when you're going up, right, it's normal to put your foot in the middle. Now here you can't put it in the middle. It's made out of straw. Well, you're going to put it on straw. Straw is going to fall under. So therefore, it says it's not going to help. Kashin mikan be'emtza. Right, v'sulam be'emtza. What about the opposite case? That's the next one. Right, you have here, you have the kashin, right? But in the middle, you have the rungs, the regular wooden rungs. And here you have the 4 tefachim in between everything. So what's halacha maleh? You could put your foot here in the middle, right? This is called putting your foot in it. No? Yeah, he says, and what happens? So since you could put your foot there, so therefore there's no problem, right? Ein chet amud bet, 78b. So chakak leashlim bakotel bekama. What happens now if you put? This is the next picture. No, that's according to the Rashba, 754, 755 again, Rashba, 756. Page 750, picture 756. Chakak lashlim bakotel bekama. Yeah, which means like this. Here you have 20 tefachim. Okay, remember, here you have 10 tefachim until here, the middle, where you see my cursor, and then 10 tefachim to the top. Now, what happened was you were chakak bakotel kedei lashlim, which means, right? Here you made like little tiny holes, or I don't know what you would call them, like indents in the wall, right? So now the question is, because basically since the thickness of the sulam of the ladder is not 4 tfachim, you have a problem. So what did you do? Until 10 tfachim, you made it thicker because you made like the holes in the wall. So therefore, the thing is, Bikama, what is halacha? Amalei, he said, Basarah. You need 10 tfachim from the bottom until there, and right, then it's going to be okay, which means since you thickened the sulam, now the sulam does have 4 tfachim, so now it will be okay. Amalei, he says, Chakako bekotel, Chakako kulo bakotel bekama. What happens if you do the entire thing in the kotel? It's according to Rashi. Here it is. 758. Chakako kulo bakotel means you don't have a sulam at all. But in the wall itself, you made like these indents, which are 4 tfachim, until the top. What's halacha? Amaleh melo komato. You need the entire gova of the kotel. You need the entire kotel going upwards, right, in order to do this. So says the Gemara, Umayshna, what's the difference? Why is it by the sulam you only need 10 tfachim, and now if you don't have a sulam at all, you need the entire kotel? Amaleh hata mistalekle. There it's good for a person to come to go up to the sulam, and you don't need the 4 tfachim. Here, right, in the other case, lo mistalekle, it's difficult to go up, right? It's much more difficult to go up if you don't have a sulam at all. So therefore, because of that, that's why he's saying that you have to be chalkak and the entire, meaning since it's much more difficult to go up, you need the entire wall going upwards, these indents, than in the case of that you had a ladder that you just needed the first 10 tachim, and then you could continue going up the ladder that way. Okay, ba minei Rav Yosef merabba. So ask Rav Yosef from Rabba. Asao ilan sulam mahu. What happens right now if you made the ilan, right, which is basically again on the side of the kotel between the 2 chatzirot, a sulam? What happens now? Meaning you made the tree like a sulam. What picture is this? This is all Tosot. Here it is. Yeah, you have to go all the way down. 765. You have to skip. I don't know how many pictures there. So 765. So you came and you made the ilan into a sulam. And you took a tree and you made it into a ladder. What's halacha? Do we say that it's going to permit you or not? Remember, all of this is in order to come and to permit to make an eruv between both of them, like to connect both properties in order to make one eruv. So the Gemara says, this is a safek whether to do with Rebbe or to do with Rabbanan. Remember that according to Rebbe, he says eruv tchumin, whether it's just placed in a tree, maybe it's going to say pasul, or according to Rabbanan, they say that it's going to be okay. So he says, it's going to be a safek according to Rabbi Akan. When did Rabbi say over there to do with eruv tchumin that if you put it on an ilan, it's going to be a good eruv? Because anything which is mishum isur d'Rabbanan, because of shvut, which is basically the same thing, a tree, using a tree is an isur d'Rabbanan on Shabbat. Because it's a gezerah, maybe you're going to break a branch or do all these things. So therefore here, since it's only d'Rabbanan, so therefore they didn't make a gezerah. Hanemina ben Shvashot, that's only during ben Shvashot. Aval kuli yoma, but the entire day. Lo, we don't say that. Meaning we only permit you during ben Shvashot to do shvuts, not any other time of Shabbat. Or maybe we're going to say, Afidu Rabbanan, even according to the rabbis, Pitchau. This ilan, beside like the part of the body, is like a petach. It's like an entrance. But therefore, it's only just like an ari, which is like a lion, which is there, which is stopping you from doing it. It's isu shvut. So therefore, since mitzad gufo, the majority of the ilan is actually like an entrance, and it's only because of the isur which is stopping it. Even according to the rabbis, it would help to come and to make it in between. Okay, fine. Tibai Rabbi Yehuda, we needed it according to Rabbi Yehuda. Asaola shira sulam mau. What happens if you made it like an ashira tree? Okay, here we don't have it, but it's just another type of a tree. Asaola shira. So this tree was actually like an ashira tree. So it says over here, okay, what's halacha? Tibai Rabbi Yehuda, whether according to Rabbi Yehuda or according to Rabbanan. Remember, according to Rabbi Yehuda, he said if it's going to be on a kever, which is a kever, a tombstone is a surbanah. So maybe you're going to say it's a sur. According to Rabbanan, it's going to be okay. When did Rabbi Yehuda say over there, the mutaliknot bait, that you're allowed to purchase a shvita, bisuriana, and a kever, elahatam, over there, over here, the kana le'eruv, lo nichal el dilintan. After you already purchased the eruv, you don't care about the shmira anymore. So if you're not going to be ne'eneh from the kever anymore. So he says only a dana of taking out of the tchum. So therefore he says, Odilma, or maybe you're going to say, but here by Eruv Chatzerot, it's going to be a problem that you should be able to, because if you're going to be me'azev on the smach of the shira, you are actually benefiting from the Asherah, and you're not allowed to benefit from a tree of Avodah Zarah. Remember, an Asherah tree is a tree of Avodah Zarah. Okay? Or Dilmar, maybe we're going to say, even according to the rabbis, Pitcha, it's an entrance, and you just have like a line which is on top of it, which is stopping you from doing the Yisur, and therefore, but technically, you should be able to use it. So Amalei, he says, Ilan mutar v'Asherah surah. So he comes and he tells him, Ilan is permitted, a tree is permitted, but the Asherah is going to be prohibited. So Matkif, Rav Chasta comes and he says, the opposite. Ilan, she'isur Shabbat korem lo nitzar. The Ilan, the Isur Shabbat is causing it. So it should be Asur. Asherah is like a side. It's like a technical difficulties that you have. She'isur Dvar Acher, that you have an external Isur gorem lo nitzar, shouldn't be prohibited. Okay? So Yit Manami was actually said at Ravin when Ravin came from Eretz Yisrael Bavel Amar. He said the name of Eliezer. Anything which Shabbat is prohibiting in it, it's going to be asur. But anything which is not going to be Shabbat prohibited, it's going to be permitted. A third shita was, until here we have three shitot. One shita was Ilan is permitted, Asherah, the tree is permitted, Asherah is prohibited. Second one is the opposite, that the tree is going to be prohibited because it's Isur Shabbat, and the Asherah is permitted because it's only an external Isur. Third shita, Rav Nachman Ritzamat in Nihachi, Ilan is a machloket between Rabbi and Rabbanan, and Asherah is going to be a machloket between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan. Okay? Mishnah. Everyone's until the Mishnah? And that was the same machloket that we mentioned above, between Rabbi and Rabbanan to do with the kever and all those things, or Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Rabbanan according to the, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan was the kever in the thing, and the Rabbi Rabbanan was to do with the tree. Okay? Fine. Next picture, 766. Charitz. Sheben shte chatzirot. When you have a charitz, remember the charitz is like a furrow, or here it's like a ditch, right, between two chatzirot. It has to be 4 tefachim wide and 10 tefachim depth. Okay? Amok asarav rochav arba. Mervin shnaim. So they have to do 2 eruvin davka. Why? Because each one is considered a completely separate eruv, completely separate chatzer. Sorry, thank you. A different domain. Vehem mervin echad, but they cannot do 1 eruv. Vafilu malek kasher tev, and even if it's going to be filled with kasher tevin, which means even if you're going to fill it up, 767, you filled it up with kasher tevin, still the same halacha. Okay? Male afar otzorot. However, though, if you filled it up with afar otzorot, that's the next picture, 768. This is the afar, earth, and this is tzorot, the stones. Have you filled it up? Okay? And then then you do 1 and you don't do twice. You don't do 2 different, because it becomes 1 domain because you filled it up. You filled the gaps. When you fill the gap, it becomes 1. Okay? Next, Natan alav neser sherachav arbaat tefachim. What happens if you place the neser? A neser is like a block of wood, right? A plank of wood. Sherachav arbaat tefachim, which is 4 tefachim, or you have 2 gzuz sarot. 2 gzuz sarot. This is the plank, 769. Or the 2 gzuz sarot is here, is 770. Yeah? Here you have the Reshut Rabim and you have 2 porches. So you put a plank of wood in between. Okay? So zu keneged zu me'arvin shnayim. So then you do 2 different eruvin. But if you want, you could do 1. Because kilu, you connected it. But if it's going to be less than 4 tefachim, me'arvin shnayim, you need to do 2 different ones. You can't do 1. Okay? Says the Gemara. The teven lo chayitz, he says what? Teven is not going to be a chatzitza. It's not going to block. If you put teven inside, you put the grain inside, why doesn't that stop them fill the gap? We learned matben, which is like a ranema of teven, between 2 chatzirot, gavo asarat tefachim, which is going to be tall 10 tefachim, me'arvin shnayim, right? You're going to do 2. Me'arvin echad, not going to do 1. Okay? Hold on 1 second. I'm just trying to see if there's a picture of this one. Here it is. You have to go all the way down to picture 778. You skip a whole bunch of pictures. When you have 10 tefachim tall, marvin shnayim ve'marvin echad, you see that this is considered like a mechitza. So this is like blocking. So the same thing, if this is in a ditch, it should block the ditch, and now it should be considered 1 property. Abai says, no, to do with mechitza, everyone agrees that there's mechitza. But to do with chatzitza, there's a question. Ibatle, right? Ichayitz. Only if you're mevatel it becomes a chatzitza. If it's not mevatel it's not a chatzitza. So the fact that to do with the chatzitza or not, is to do with a mechitza, it's a mechitza. It blocks 100%. But to do with chatzitza, it's only if you're mevatel, and that's the difference between them. Okay? Fine. Malei afar, if you put full of dirt, Vafilu bestama, even stam, if you just put dirt there, that's it. Vatran, we learned in the Mishnah, bait shvilu tevenot tzorot ubitlo batel. Only if you put a house that you filled up with tevenot tzorot, and then you were mevatel this grains or stones inside of it, then it's going to be mevatel. Bitlo in, if you were mevatel, yes, right? Ayin teta mudalef, lo bitlo lo. But if you were not mevatel, no. Sama Ravuna says mantana halot Rabbi Yossi. This is a shita of halot is according to Rabbi Yossi that he holds that tzorot betelim bistam is actually a machloket over there, and therefore we're going according to Rabbi Yossi. Obviously tomorrow we'll explain what does that mean in shitat Rabbi Yossi. Have a wonderful